By the summer of 1945, Nazi Germany had surrendered, bringing peace to Europe. But in the Pacific, the war was reaching a brutal, agonizing peak. The United States island-hopping campaign had brought American forces to Japan's doorstep at an immense human cost. In the Battle of Okinawa alone, over 12,000 American soldiers and more than 100,000 Japanese military and civilians perished in less than 3 months. This map outlines Operation Downfall, the planned Allied amphibious invasion of the Japanese mainland. Military planners analyzing these invasion routes projected a catastrophic death toll, estimating hundreds of thousands, potentially millions, of casualties on both sides. To avoid this impending mainland bloodbath, Allied leaders convened in Potsdam, Germany, searching for a strategic alternative to force an end to the fighting. The result was the Potsdam Declaration. It presented Tokyo with a stark, absolute ultimatum: surrender unconditionally, immediately, or face prompt and utter destruction. This declaration offered a battered, heavily blockaded nation a clear off-ramp from total annihilation. Yet the Japanese government ignored it. To understand why a dying empire refused a chance to survive, we have to look inside Tokyo's command structure. The Japanese government receiving this ultimatum was not a single, unified entity. Power rested in the hands of a deeply fractured Supreme Council for the direction of the war. One half of this council consisted of military hardliners. Driven by strict adherence to the martial code of Bushido, they demanded the nation fight to the bitter end. These hardliners were actively preparing for a mainland defense by mobilizing the civilian population. They formed the Volunteer Fighting Corps, training everyday citizens, including women and teenagers, to fight invading troops with whatever weapons they could find. For these commanders, accepting unconditional surrender meant accepting the removal and potential execution of their divine emperor. It was a red line they were entirely willing to die to protect. This structural chart illustrates the problem. Hardliners were perfectly balanced against moderates, who desperately wanted to secure a negotiated peace. Because hardliners blocked formal surrender, moderates attempted a secret alternative strategy. They reached out through neutral diplomatic channels, specifically the Soviet Union, hoping to preserve the emperor's status. This severe ideological split created absolute political paralysis. The council could neither formally agree to surrender nor officially declare total war. Caught squarely in the middle of this deadlocked council was Prime Minister Kantaro Suzuki. Forced to address the press regarding the Potsdam Ultimatum, he needed a compromise statement that would appease both sides. To do this, he used a highly ambiguous word. As you can see in this typographic breakdown, the Japanese term Mokusatsu carries multiple meanings. It can be translated mildly as to withhold comment, or aggressively as to treat with silent contempt. The Japanese moderates intended the milder meaning. It was a stalling tactic, a way to buy time while back-channel diplomats worked to secure better terms. Washington interpreted the word as absolute hostile defiance, completely unaware of the political paralysis stalling the council in Tokyo. Compounding this translation error was a closing window of time. President Truman was under massive pressure to end the conflict quickly before Joseph Stalin could launch a promised Soviet invasion into Asia and claim post-war territory. To American leaders, this ambiguous term functioned as a final rejection of the Potsdam terms. Facing the looming deadline of a Soviet invasion, Truman treated the statement as a refusal and moved the atomic mission to an active military command. On August 6th, the United States answered the perceived rejection. The Enola Gay dropped the first atomic bomb, instantly leveling the city of Hiroshima. 2 days later, the moderates' fragile strategy completely shattered. The Soviet Union officially entered the war against Japan, sending a massive wave of Red Army soldiers into Manchuria and crushing any hope of neutral mediation. On August 9th, the United States dropped a second atomic bomb, this time devastating Nagasaki. This overwhelming dual shock of nuclear devastation and Soviet invasion finally broke the political stalemate. Emperor Hirohito took the rare step of bypassing his paralyzed military council to personally announce Japan's unconditional surrender. The geopolitical chess match ended, leaving behind a stark physical reality. Tens of thousands of civilians died in an instant, and entire cities were reduced to ash. The events of August 1945 represent a collision of extreme ideological rigidity and a catastrophic failure of communication. Ultimately, the Council's inability to speak with one voice turned their silence into the signal for nuclear deployment.